Hello my chicklets, thank you for stopping by. Today we are going to read a slightly short story. This one does have a little bit of mentions of alcohol, so if that's not something that interests you, I would suggest one of the other stories on my channel. For now, let's go ahead and read Time Alone. Working at a nightclub had a lot of perks. Remy enjoyed the late nights, the flirtatious men, and the power that came with being a bouncer. Most people didn't think he was that strong just by looking at him, but he hid his buff arms behind his leather jacket. Remy truly enjoyed his job, most nights. Some nights, things got out of hand, and just getting through his shift was a slog. Tonight, however, was unlike any other night he had worked. Tonight, his boyfriend had decided to go to the club. Remy could not imagine why his straight-laced, tie-wearing, cartoon-loving boyfriend had decided it was a good idea to come to a nightclub. Sure, Remy had wanted Emile to go out more and to experience more things, but why did Emile have to come here? Especially while he was working. His focus had been completely divided all night. It was difficult, too, because Remy had been working more than normal because they had lost another bouncer. He was trying hard to keep an eye on all of the patrons, but he found his eyes following Emile. Emile had had one too many. Remy could tell. He knew his boyfriend, and he was now talking to someone, and it almost looked as if he was flirting. Remy pushed up his sunglasses, trying to calm himself down because he knew that Emile wasn't that type of guy. But he was still jealous. He might not have been very good at hiding his feelings, though, because his boss walked up to him and gently tapped him on the shoulder. "Let me take over, Rem. It looks like you've got enough to deal with tonight." A light sigh left his lips. "Thanks, babe. Let me know if I need to come in early or anything to cover this." The man just nodded. Quickly making his way over to Emile, he put his hand on his boyfriend's shoulder. "Ready to go home, love?" "Remy, join us! I was just telling this person here what the series Voltron can tell us about group dynamics and the importance of communication." Of course he was talking about cartoons. It was one of the many things that made him endearing. Come, sit, Remy Bear. You should hear this too. You see, in Voltron season..." His eyes were glossy, and his mind was not in the right space. "Some season, Keith begins working with the Blade of Memora, a group of rebels who are fighting against the Galra Empire. A lot of the mission that Keith goes on with the Blade is very useful, and he ends up getting helpful information. However, oftentimes when he brings that information back, he doesn't feel listened to by the leader of his main group, Voltron." Emile was slurring his words as he waved his arms around to make his point. Keith didn't feel like his contributions were being noticed, and rather than listening to his concerns, Shiro, the leader of Voltron, continued to stonewall him. Now this... Remy stopped listening at this point. Something Emile had said struck a chord. The man he was talking to didn't seem that interested in what Emile had to say, which meant Emile probably started talking about himself. Had he not been listening to Emile lately? He sighed, rubbing his face. "Emile, babes, let's go home." It seemed that Emile was finally ready to go as he nodded and let Remy lead him back home. Remy was not one for doubt. He was confident incarnate, but something about Emile always made him overthink. Getting his boyfriend into their bed, Remy went to make himself a cup of coffee. He knew he wasn't going to sleep tonight anyway, so why even try? He would stay up until Emile had to get up for work. Maybe they could talk a bit about what happened. Remy had been working a lot lately, though that wasn't entirely his fault. They had been down a person in the bar, and he was doing his best to fill in. But he knew the extra hours had put a bit of a strain on date night. "Remy?" Apparently, he had been lost in his thoughts longer than he expected. "Hey babes, how did you sleep?" "About as good as Aang and his friends did when they were being chased by Zuko." "That bad?" Remy took a sip of his coffee. "Do you want to talk about it?" Emile hesitated, but then nodded. Even if he didn't want to, he knew he should. I miss you, Rem." "I'm right here." "I know, but you work late, and ever since you lost one of the girls at the club, you've been working extra, and you're always tired, so we don't get to spend a lot of time together." "Is that why you came to the bar last night?" Emile nodded. "I just missed you, and I wanted to spend time with you." Remy sighed, taking off his glasses and making his way over to Emile, pulling him in close. "We're almost done hiring the new person. How about once they are hired and trained, I take some time off. Then you and I can go on vacation, spend some actual time together." "Really?" "Yeah. We can even go to one of those theme parks with all of the cartoon characters you like. Emile lit up, a smile crossing his face. I don't know why I was so worried to talk to you about it. You should never feel worried about talking to me, Em, and I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. Emile smiled, burying his head in Remy's leather jacket. Thank you all for listening. Again, this was Time Alone. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.